This is Keys to the Shop, Founder Friday edition. Today we're talking with Arick Davis and Sarah Layman of Last Mile Cafe in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio, and I am really excited to have you along today, especially those of you who are new. I really appreciate you tuning in to the show. You know, there's so many episodes to choose from when you go back into the history of Keys to the Shop. If you went to keystotheshop.com and searched episodes, that's a great way to start off. If you want to search for leadership management, barista crafts, supply chain, roasting, there's so many different kinds of episodes. So I'm thrilled that you have found this show, and I hope that it's really beneficial to you. And you know what would be great is if you would subscribe to the show. Just hit subscribe. Those of you who have been listening for a while probably are subscribed, maybe not, but it just doesn't take very much time. Just hit that button, and it really makes a difference in terms of how the show is ranked, how many people get to find it, and you get updated with new content as it comes out. Also, sharing these episodes and sharing the shows with your team on social media goes a long way. I mean, it really is a big world out there, and this is a global show. Our guests come from all over the world, and our listeners are from across the globe. And so the goal of this show has always been to serve and to create a better future for specialty coffee retailers. And when you share these episodes, you're participating in that mission to really spread these ideas, these great guests and their stories, so that we can edify and serve one another, run great businesses, and serve great coffee to our guests. So that would be awesome if you would do that as well. Now, Keys to the Shop also offers consulting and coaching for you and your business. It is really difficult sometimes to get perspective. When you're a coffee shop owner, operator, it can be a lonely road. And what I like to provide with Keys to the Shop consulting is support, clarity, and solutions that are really foundational to your business, that are not just quick fixes, but address the root causes of maybe some things that are challenging the business or challenging you as the operator, and developing the tools and systems that are essential for success in your unique business. If you want to work one-on-one with me and see how Keys to the Shop Consulting can help you, just email chris@keystotheshop.com. We'll set up a free strategy call, have a great conversation. So again, the email for Keys to the Shop Consulting, chris@keystotheshop.com. Not all coffee is going to taste as good as the package says that it's going to taste. We are trying to close the gap in terms of how we describe coffees versus how the customer experiences it. And often the gap is, yes, user error in machinery, but also the machinery itself. That's why I'm so excited about the ground control Cyclops brewer from Voga Coffee. In my mind, it offers you the best possible chance of taking that coffee you've worked so hard at and really representing it well in the cup, and truly putting the coffee in its best possible light. The SCA award-winning technology in the ground control allows you to extract a deeper range of flavors than you could have before with traditional batch brewers. And not only does it make amazing batch brew coffee, but it also makes tea, batched iced lattes, batch cold brew. Check them out over at groundcontrol.coffee to learn more. View testimonials, who's using this machine. You might be able to find a place near you where you can try it out and see it in action for yourself. Again, if you're looking for profitability, better workflow, and an upgrade in quality to truly differentiate your business and make your coffee shine, check out the Ground Control Cyclops brewer from Voga Coffee over at groundcontrol.coffee. Plant-based beverages are taking over, basically. I mean, when you go to a coffee bar, you are more likely to get an order. If you work as a barista, honestly, you're more likely to get an order for a plant-based beverage than you are for a regular milk beverage these days. You know, it depends on where you are, but for the most part, this is the way it is. And that's it's not really slowing down. And you want to have the best product. I think it's going to have to be the Barista series from Pacific. They have created the Barista series very specifically for baristas and the kind of standards that professional baristas from all over the world have who test these products before they get on your counters and you try them out. It's no mistake that these performance beverages perform on bar as well as they do because they've been through the paces. And that means it stands up to the heat from steaming, produces a wonderful texture, perfect for latte art, and also the beverage is balanced. It's focused on the coffee. And so no matter what you choose from the Barista Series lineup, you're going to end up with a winner. So you should check them out over at pacificfoodservice.com. Get samples for yourself and try it. I think you really will be impressed. So will your customers. If you're looking for the best plant-based beverages possible, I think you should be using the Barista Series from Pacific. Okay, everyone. Well, it is the last Founder Friday for 2022. And so it has been a great year for Founder Fridays. Really always exciting to talk with people who are making a difference in the coffee industry through serving their communities. And today we're going to be talking with a couple of people who have truly epitomized community in the way that they have developed their business. We are talking with Arick Davis and Sarah Layman of Last Mile Cafe in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And both Arick and Sarah come from the world of tech and also charities and nonprofits. They've always loved coffee as a beverage, and in their lines of work through nonprofits and really seeking to make a difference for communities through that work, you could say that they've always been steeped in a love for coffee and people. And so they took this experience and developed the concept of Last Mile Cafe as a pop-up, as a mobile, farmers market stand, doing events and different things like that. And right from the beginning, embracing partnerships with local organizations and charities and making charitable giving part of the foundation of their business right from the beginning. And they've been able to accomplish some really cool things. I was happy to be able to meet them at Coffee Fest a little bit ago, and they were just kind of getting ready to start their brick and mortar. And at the time of this recording, you'll hear it's only been 9 days since they launched. But they launched, and it was great. And so we're going to get to talk with them all about how they started this business, what went on behind the scenes, what their mission is, kind of how the charitable aspect of the business works, what the community response was to their business, and how was it opening this brick and mortar on the heels of their consistent service to their community through the mobile iteration of Last Mile Cafe. Both Arick and Sarah bring some great perspectives to the table here, and I feel they offer a great model of something that you can do with your business, whether you're just starting out or you're already established. I think there's a lot of takeaways here that will help you make the first step in a great direction for your business. So I'm honored to have been able to have both Sarah and Arick on the show today, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. It's such an exciting time for me to get to sit down with somebody. I mean, again, 9 days being open, it's pretty cool. So with all that said, let me just stop talking and get right to the interview. Here now is my conversation with the founders of Last Mile Cafe, Arick Davis and Sarah Layman. All right, Arick and Sarah, welcome to Keys to the Shop. How in the heck are you?
Doing phenomenal. So happy to be here. How are you, Chris?
Doing well. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good.
Excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. I have met you all in person at Coffee Fest, and we talked about your upcoming cafe, and you've been operating Last Mile for a while as a pop-up. And I'm excited to kind of dive into this story. You've been now open as a retail entity, like a brick and mortar, for it is 9 days, right?
Yeah. We're literally this Friday is going into our 10th day, and it's just been great. The community has been super excited and showing out and being consistent. So it's definitely been a phenomenal start.
Yeah, 9 days is so fresh, and that's part of why I'm so excited to talk to you also. I think you all do good work, but also the idea that there's, just this fresh perspective of what it's like to go from something that is this concept in your head to, testing it with pop-ups and farmers markets, and web shops and things like that. And then to be, IRL, so to speak, right? And to be doing it as a traditional cafe is always a bit of an adventure. And so let's get back to the idea part of this, where last mile or coffee as a business was actually an idea. How did this all begin? What was the catalyst for this?
Yeah, Sarah and I had worked together at previous jobs, and we had just found ourselves in a place where we weren't really loving the work that we were doing. I'm the type of guy that works, 60-hour, 70-hour work weeks anyway, and Sarah and I were just like, why not build the company that we wanted to work for? And I guess from there, we just really saw coffee as a great vehicle to do that. So we kind of started with like the vision and ambition to build a company that was focused on sustainability, giving back, being a part of community. Like that was first, and then the coffee actually came second for us.
What is it about coffee that made you think that this was a vehicle for starting your own business? Because, you know, wherever you worked before, for a lot of people, what they do is they say, well, I'll just do what I'm doing now and I'll do it for myself because I already have the skills to do it. But I'm not going to jump into, some people just might not jump into a different industry altogether. So, what is it about coffee? I imagine you were already a coffee drinker that made you think, okay, well, this is the obvious path.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the community that you see around coffee. Like, I had done like a lot of traveling, and I had found myself just like really appreciating, like, one, stopping in the local shops, and even two, stopping into some of the big chains. But there was genuinely like this big hole where, like, for me, I never felt like any of those places like fully were for me. So, this idea that I was going to create this like space where other people would come in and like feel welcomed was exciting to me. And then two, like with the coffee, I know that there's so many different variations of like how coffee could taste. And honestly, I felt like a lot of specialty coffee was tasting the same. So I kind of had this vision of like, clean tasting notes, like low acidity, super smooth, exciting, fruity coffees. And it was like, it seemed almost like I had to like make those and put those in the menu to be able to walk into a coffee shop and always get what I want. So I think the appeal of like knowing that there was probably other people like me and Sarah that didn't feel like fully satisfied with the offerings around us really excited me that we were going to be creating something for other people to enjoy too.
Yeah, and I think for me, I know, so most of my background is in nonprofit work and marketing and impact work, and coffee just feels like a industry that's due for some innovation, and it's kind of on the cusp of some new ideas when it comes to sustainability and the way people are doing farmer relationships, and it just felt like a really cool time to kind of get into it and learn more and be able to make a difference in that area.
Well, kind of the way Sarah was mentioning that her background was in marketing and sustainability, mine was in technology. So I had already like bounced around to doing, generic software development for different industries and different companies anyway. So I think Sarah and I also just viewed our skill sets as like adaptable. So, we still needed a website, we still needed online, we still needed some of this like social media and Google Maps stuff, like set up. So I feel like we were able to still take a lot of our previous experience into this. It didn't feel like we were starting at zero. Sarah designed the logo, the bags, most of the website, like herself. I came in and like did some things on the website as well. But those other skills still, I feel like, came over into helping us build this business.
Wonderful. So, a love for coffee, a love for impact, obviously, especially Sarah, as you've worked in nonprofit and you said impact work. So, I can see a little bit about how your company would not only want to fulfill this desire to work for yourself, but also, um, provide the kind of coffee that you're really excited about and make a difference doing it. And so, what was the first expression of your coffee business, and how did you fold all that into it?
Yeah, the first iteration of this was a concept idea called Equity Cafe. Um, And the original concept was that we wanted to give people equity in the business every time they made a purchase with the company. It turned out that that idea was a little ahead of its time and pretty advanced when it came to building any technology around it, and pretty advanced when it came to any laws around giving equity digitally as people made purchases. So pretty quickly that idea transformed into Last Mile Cafe, although a lot of the values and intent around kind of our decision making and our plans for the future are still rooted in some of those original ideas that came up.
Yeah, and then I would say when we, did go through the rebrand process, I think the funny thing is like we started because I'm obsessed with hoodies. So we started with merch before we started with coffee, which is probably like a faux pas. And then immediately after that, because like I said, Sarah had designed the logo, so we started looking for labels and who was going to print those, and then looking for like what bags we wanted to use, and then looking for partners to roast our coffee because we knew we wanted to have great coffee. Like we knew that was just like a must. And we had started looking at like home roasting and all of this stuff, and really decided that finding an established roasting partner was going to be the better move for us. So we got our packaging and stuff together, tasted, probably about 100 coffees at the time, found a company that we were super excited to work with that had like really delicious coffee and that could give us what we wanted. And then, yeah, we started selling that coffee at farmers markets, like local pop-up events, and really anywhere where we could go. I mean, in the first couple of months, we were at like, fashion pop-ups, just like selling bags of coffee. Like any place that would have us, we went and tried to sell a bag of coffee.
So a couple of questions there. When and iteration, I think maybe people are afraid of it in terms of, if I said it, I'm going to do it forever. And, and changing your mind, or at least changing the way that you approach the same goals, obviously has worked for you. And I know many people have done that as well. So I guess there's a lesson there for people, like get feedback from what you're doing and don't be afraid to, iterate. But also then you took the idea of, we want to be a coffee company. We're going to try, maybe we're going to roast. Let's put it on the table and see what we're going to do. But you decided to get a roasting partner. What was the thing that made you think our focus needs to be elsewhere and we need to work with a roasting partner? Was it just a matter of time and kind of the inertia of getting into roasting itself?
I think there is a lot of great coffee out there. And I think there are a lot of really great roasters out there as well. And there's so many steps in the process that really determines how someone experiences coffee. Two people can have the exact same bag of coffee roasted on the exact same today and have completely different experiences in the cup based on, how they brew it, water, temperature, and everything else. So with all of those variables, like we thought the unique value that we could really add was the branding, the approach, the communication, like how we even talked about the coffees, like, not necessarily getting into like cupping scores and elevation, but really talking about the experience of the coffee. And in that, we felt like we saw a lot of people that weren't necessarily into specialty coffee in our neighborhood that still got excited about like, ooh, this coffee has blueberry notes, and then starting them down this journey of like, oh, well, why does this coffee taste different than the coffee that I have been drinking? So I think really it was us taking a step back, and not saying that any way is right. I think the way that you feel equipped to start, like whatever first step you're willing to take, I think is the right first step. But for us, we asked ourselves like, what is the thing that we can really do the best? And we thought that the branding and the customer experience was where Sarah and I was coming with like the most passionate ideas. And it helped us get to market quicker, because if we would have wanted to go the roasting route, we would have had to wait until we had the money to buy the roaster. We started this company with about $2,000, getting bags and everything else in. And if we wanted to go the roasting route, we would have had to wait to get more money to buy the roaster. We would have had to do a lot of roasting to get like really great at it. And like for us, that just didn't seem like the best path. But again, I want to make it clear that's not saying that one path is better than the other. I think you just got to follow the skills and the tools you have available.
So while you were doing this, were you both working still?
Yes, we were.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so that is a challenge in and of itself to have a business that is a quote unquote side hustle or whatever you want to call it that you want to make into the full-time thing or whatever. Um, how did you manage your time and dedication to this idea as it grew while also working in the places where you knew, hey, we kind of want to do our own thing. This is our own thing, but now we have two things to do.
Yeah, I think that for Arick and I, we would answer that question really differently. As Arick said earlier, he's super comfortable with a 70-hour work week. I am not. And so to be doing other jobs and to be trying to start a business, we're also both parents. It takes a lot of really good communication about what your time management expectations are and a lot of good accountability tools in place to make sure you're kind of holding yourself to those goals. And it takes some time. We did have some weeks where it did not feel like time was well spent. And then, we would have another week where it felt like we really got in the groove. But I think that you really have to be reflecting about what your own personal boundaries are and just be constantly talking and working through that stuff because it's not easy for most people.
Yeah, I think when you are, chasing a dream like this and really trying to create something like, I mean, there's been so many great moments, but like we still, definitely have some sacrifices. We have not missed a Saturday. Our company, Sarah and I have taken a break, but like Last Mile Cafe as a team has not missed a farmer's market in a year and a half. So it's just like, that means someone is up every Saturday, usually at 6 a.m., like getting coffee ready. And I think like, when we knew like that was an important part of our business, which did just mean, maybe we weren't staying out on Friday nights. Maybe we didn't go out and hang out with people on like Saturday nights because, we started the day at 6 a.m. So I think that, like Sarah said, I think communication really helped us. And then like time management and scheduling and, putting those rocks in first, like knowing we're going to do the farmers market on Saturday. So shaping the week around that, knowing that for our other job, like we might have meetings or something like that. So scheduling in all of the things that have to happen. And then honestly, just like putting the kids to bed and staying up till midnight to wrap up other things. So
yeah, I was thinking to myself that at least you've had practice as parents in not going out and like I find myself getting less and less fun as I get older. I just think, but maybe more responsible.
different. Yeah, I was gonna say different fun.
Yeah,
different fun is a great way to put it.
It's fun for me.
There's nothing like washing dishes on a Friday night.
Oh gosh, if you haven't tried it, and anyone listening, let's try it. It's great. So the idea of this pop-up, the farmers market and everything else, you come from these industries that are not the coffee industry. You say, we want to find a roaster. We found a roaster. We're going to start this coffee company. We started it. But you still have to make the coffee and serve the coffee. And now you are coffee professionals. This is what you're doing. What was the learning curve like to prepare and serve and, refine the way that you crafted the coffee as people coming into it, obviously as enthusiasts, but as you started to do this more often, I'm sure you got better and better at it. Did you like lean on a lot of educational tools and things like videos for how to make coffee and more things about extraction science and all that kind of stuff? What was behind your professional development there?
So I honestly feel like I cheated. Like my background is in engineering, so I approach all of these things like in my mind the way an engineer would. Like I went to the best, coffee shops. I visited every different coffee shop in Grand Rapids and a lot of other places, and I asked them questions and like a little bit on YouTube, but like really like coffee is such like I want to say tactile, just like a real thing. Coffee is happening like on your palate. So what I did the most of was just go to coffee shops. And if I liked the coffee, I asked questions. I was like, what kind of coffee is this? How do you brew it? How long has it been sitting out? What kind of grinder did you
Mm.
use? Like what grind did you do it at? And then same thing, if I went and I to a place and I didn't like the coffee, I asked the same questions. And in doing that, I kind of built up my coffee knowledge. Like I didn't really understand extraction until, recently when we were doing some of our like roasting and espresso training. That was when I started to learn some of these fancier words. But really, I think we did it off of taste. Like we did it off of like, how does this feel? And then we built our whole system around there. I remember one of our friends that is like he's like a head of coffee at a local company, and he came to our setup at the farmers market, and he was like tasting the coffee that he helped us roast, and he was like, "Wow, this is really good. How are you brewing this?" And we were brewing it on a percolator, and I think that like there was like this mindset that like, oh, you can't brew great coffee on a percolator. But again, like we didn't necessarily go off of what was industry standard. We approached it of how do we get the best tasting coffee off of the equipment that we have. So yeah, a lot of just leveraging our local community and asking questions and drinking a lot of coffee, I think, is how we really developed everything that we did.
I love that approach. Yeah, and it is really encouraging, and it's encouraging to me because I think in the history of coffee, there's a lot of mystery, around the profession of being a barista, and only a trained professional can make coffee. There's so much information. There's so many tools and things that you can choose from, and it feels inaccessible. And simply by being a conscious consumer who's curious, not only were you able to make great coffee, but you were able to become a coffee professional without having worked in coffee.
I think what's interesting about that, and what I was thinking about some while Arick was talking is, most people aren't Q graders. Most of your customers aren't people that have like a coffee background. They might be coffee enthusiasts too, but at the end of the day, whether or not someone thinks your coffee is good is just completely subjective. And I think that we have a good variety of coffees available at this point, and we do have something that resonates with everybody. And I think where we capture people is with like our branding and what we stand for and our mission. And then from there, it's just very easy to find a coffee in our portfolio that you like. And so I think it's easy to get really caught up on like, the experience and whether or not your coffee meets like these objectives, scoring metrics of the industry. But again, like most people, I guess unless that's your target market, most people drinking coffee aren't using that mindset when they're interacting with your brand. So I think that's another thing that's sort of on our side.
We really thought about the experience as a whole. Like when we were even starting this out, like we wanted to do the 10% to charity. Like we viewed that as part of the experience because it's like, great, you've committed to buying this bag of coffee, but you still get this like little reward of giving to charity. The bags are compostable and resealable. So like, while you're drinking your coffee at home, you don't have to like fuss around with these ties or anything like that. You can just like push the air out, zip your bags up, and then when you're done, you can compost it. We try to offer all of our brewing guides and whatever information people wanted about how to brew their coffee. And like literally at every step of the process, we just wanted people to feel excited about the experience they were having with their coffee. And I think that's what really drew people to us is like we really lived our values and we really made it simple and we really made it transparent.
Tell me in a couple sentences, like encapsulate do the elevator pitch for Last Mile Cafe. Because I know you just mentioned the 10% to charity, and getting people excited about coffee. But what's the mission, as you mentioned, Sarah? What's the nutshell version of Last Mile Cafe?
Yeah, I think, what we lead with is that we are a Black and woman-owned business. We have diverse ownership. We're coming and approaching coffee in a way that's not experienced widely in the industry. We do have compostable bags, labels, cups, and shipping materials for all of our products. And and we donate 10% of our revenue to charity. When people buy a bag of coffee with us, they can choose from 4 different cause areas on the front of the bag to choose where their specific 10% goes to. And then on a quarterly basis, we let the community vote and decide which specific charities are getting that money. So we really want it to be like a community customer-centric experience all the way through.
That's very interesting. How do you manage that charity part, logistically?
I mean, I think lucky for us, we've literally never not done it. So from right from the beginning, we built that in, and we thought, well, in our first quarter, maybe donating 10% to charity is going to be like $300. But how cool will it be if this is built into our system and, in a year, we're donating, $50,000. And in 10 years, we're donating, millions and millions of dollars. And we just thought there are so many companies that have an opportunity to do this well, that are oftentimes capitalizing on the fact that people don't know the difference between revenue and profit, or that, maybe they're donating a certain percentage up to a certain dollar amount and they meet that in the first quarter, and then they just kind of ride the marketing wave the rest of the year. So we really wanted to do it in a way that was transparent, involved our customers. And that's not an easy decision. I think if you're a business person, you might cringe at what that number could mean long term, and what else we could be doing with it. But it really just felt like the right thing to do, and it's really resonated with people, honestly.
In your experience with nonprofits, et cetera, it's obvious that you have, and you must have just been able to see the impact of impact work, the results of, people's donations in real time to other organizations. I'm sure that is a help to keep you going in the times where you may have that valley experience where you're just like, I know we could use this money for something else, and maybe in the business you really, really need it. But to push through and consistency to your values, having that real experience of, no, I see what impact over time looks like with my past job. I'm sure that plays a part.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. Arick and I both have some experience in nonprofit work, so I think that resonated with both of us. But if I'm being honest, what I'm really excited about is what this looks like in 5 or 10 years, just because the scalability of the concept. And that's not to say that there isn't impact with every dollar you donate, but at the end of the day, you can do a lot with a lot of money. So I'm just really excited about the opportunity that means, for our community and for our customers as they're helping make those decisions, and kind of taking the driver's seat on how we're spending it. So.
Yeah, I think also it's been exciting doing this in our local community. We let people nominate, so we have ended up donating to a couple national nonprofits or global nonprofits, which is still great. But a lot of that money is staying in the community. And me and Sarah kind of just had this moment a few weeks ago where we were we've already donated over 10 grand to charity. If Sarah and I were looking at our personal charitable giving, we were giving, but we weren't donating anywhere at that scale. So to be not even 2 years old and to have already donated, $10,000, a little over, to local charities, feels amazing. But then also seeing the impact of some of these orgs, I could get into all of them, but some of them in particular helped me when I was growing up. And even I remember Comprenew is where I got my first computer at home, because we didn't have one in my house. So I think it's easy to kind of separate off local nonprofits and charities as oh, those are for other people. But I think we're all this community. We're all going through different things at different times in our life. And I always ask the question, why are we here? What are we doing? What's the point of starting a business or making money if it's just so you can buy a nicer car or something? That seems super unfulfilling to me. So I love this gift that we have to, one, have this community space, have delicious coffee, but also be able to just help people in the community that are really trying to do great things. And all of the charities that we have donated to are listed on our website. So if anyone does want to learn more about those or get help setting up something similar for themselves, like we are here as a resource.
The idea that this is scalable, it's built in, you don't have to think about it as much. Like later, if you tried to do it retroactively or in a bigger format where you were a bigger company, it'd be really difficult to do. And time is such a powerful force. If just small, dedicated, consistent action over time, it just equals huge results. Maybe it's not directly related, but I forget who said it. The greatest force on earth, the most powerful force, is compound interest. It was an economist somewhere. So yeah, I think I'm interested to dig into this with one more question. I have some other things I really want to talk to you about, but the idea of letting people vote, I'm sure that there's some people out here listening or that are fascinated by this idea, maybe want to just take this on themselves. Like, how does that, do you take a vote on your website monthly? What does that look like?
I can walk through that. So it's a two-step process, but it's a super simple. So don't make it sound too technical. But really, we just like set up modifiers in Square. So whenever anyone buys coffee, whether that's from us or on the website, they are required to select which cause they want their donation to go to, and then that just gets stored on the back end, like in our sales history. And then we wrote a script on our team where we can just like run it, and it will then calculate how much each cause gets based on those like loggers in Square. And then, we write a check. The way we pick what charities go to, we have two ways to do it. We have a text number that we're using, and then we also have, we use Instagram. So right now we nominate charities beforehand. So we literally do a call to our community and we're like, hey, what charities do you want to nominate? We let people either text or nominate those in. And then if there's a tie or something like that, then we'll resend out a thing in the text group and say, hey, these are the two charities for youth at risk. Which one do you all really want?
So that's a secondary vote. The first is a first vote that gets nominations, and then you do a vote for the community. Like when they put the modifier in there, they select which one, and then you do it again for the broader community a second time.
Essentially, at purchase, you choose between one of the four causes, and then the secondary vote is really to pick what charity the money actually goes to.
That makes sense. Good. Okay, thank you for answering that. That's really fascinating. And again, on the show we talk a lot about things regarding models of doing things. Like we've had roasters and importers on the show that have various models of doing things, and it's theoretical when you talk about it, but when you live it out, like you say, you're not that old of a business, but already $10,000. That's more than 10-year-old companies have donated in 10 years to things, but it's part of your values. And that's why it's been so impactful thus far. So it's really exciting. And another idea here that I think is interesting is networking with local organizations. Obviously there's the nonprofits and making sure that you're connected, but talk a little bit about the idea of how you give away a lot of your, I wouldn't say branding. I mean, you are who you are, but I imagine there's a lot of people who would want to keep everything hyper branded to them. So networking and partnering sounds like a lot of relationship maintenance to do. We're just concerned with scaling our brand, creating verticals for our brand. And they might be afraid of watering down their brand by having so many different kind of partnerships that they work with. Maybe talk to people who may be a little reticent to take on a lot of different partnerships in their business because they just want to focus on their business.
Yeah, I really want to let Sarah answer this question because she handles the marketing. I guess I do a lot of kind of the big relationship building and stuff, but I think again, I feel like we kind of cheated this because we only work with people that we like. And that's not at all to say that every brand partnership that we has done is perfect, but if we're in a meeting with someone and they don't feel values align, or it's just hard to have a conversation with them, or they think it's stupid that we donate 10% of our revenue to charity, that relationship doesn't go very far. And I think kind of that self-filtering that happens on the front end makes, doing all of these different collaborations easy because we're working with people that see the world the way that we do. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to lead with that. It feels easy. It feels obvious. It feels like we're working with friends.
Yeah, I think that's all true. And I also think that partnerships and collaborations have only ever helped us. So it's interesting to me that somebody might go through or have a particular mindset that that their brand is being watered down or that they're maybe like fighting for attention within that partnership. But I think that people really value authenticity and people really value relationship building and community building. And at the end of the day, usually a partnership is only going to just introduce you to a whole new like slew of people that maybe your brand wouldn't have found otherwise. So I think there are a lot of like really good objective business reasons to have partnerships. But on top of that, we just, yeah, like Arick said, we just like people and we want them people to experience our brand and experience our coffee and be along for that journey of some of the like mission and impact work that we have. So it does sort of feel obvious and it does feel like it's only ever really been beneficial. So
on top of that, it's taking advantage of other people's, I don't say taking advantage, that sounds terrible. Being able to benefit from people's already established impact. So a charity who's been operating for decades, perhaps, or just years, would be better than trying to start your own charity for that very same purpose because you've got the initial inertia of starting that thing up and you don't have the network or the relationships that they do. And so you are able to do things a little bit more efficiently. Like I don't want to hire an expert or hire somebody who's not an expert to do my taxes. I want somebody who's got experience doing that. I'm hiring them for their experience. And we're used to doing that when it comes to hiring people. We want people who have skills in particular areas. And so it makes sense that you would want to do the same for people with impact work and not just keep it in-house for the sake of, owning it yourself. You're giving away a little bit, maybe, I don't know, but you're benefiting in the long run, like you say. And as you're working on this business and growing your relationships and making great coffee at farmers markets, what became the biggest challenge for you operationally? How did you overcome it?
Yeah, I honestly feel like at the farmers market, operationally, we built it to be very simple. I feel like when we got into the cafe build out, that was where, operations kind of went a little crazy. But I would say with the farmers market, we tried to keep it simple. We ran into like just refrigeration, right? And decided to do like ice coolers for cold drinks, brewing the coffee. We decided to brew the coffee at the kitchen we were using, and then put it in the air pots and transport it. We tried brewing it on site, once or twice, and that ended up just like taking up more time and like it wasn't like a consistent environment and it didn't feel right. So we stuck to brewing it at our kitchen and then just bringing in air pots, which worked fine. Sometimes we would sell out, sometimes we wouldn't. And then yeah, we did decide to use oat milk because it was shelf stable until you open it and then you put it in the refrigerator. But like that kind of simplified things because we weren't dealing with like a ton of different milk options or like having like cow's milk like spoil or anything weird like that or like expire between events. So yeah, I mean honestly, I feel like our farmers market setup was really simple. The hardest part was just getting up every Saturday at 6 a.m.
yeah, I really agree with most of that. I think that a lot of it felt pretty simple to do operationally. And it was pretty easy to pivot and modify when we needed to. But yeah, when we when we began the build out of the space, that is when I think we faced the most challenges. And everybody told us that a build out is going to take longer than you think, and there's going to be surprises, and the quote you get for something is going to change in 6 months when you're ready to actually order it, and we ran into a lot of we'll just call them learning experiences throughout that process. It doesn't help that Arick and I also chose a building that hadn't been inhabited for 30 years. So
Oops.
the amount of work that had to go into just getting like a gas line put to it, because when they had repaved the street, I guess nobody like updated the plumbing and stuff to the building. So there was all sorts of things that we were not prepared for and couldn't have guessed, but we persevered. We've been open 9 days now. 10, I guess, as of a couple hours ago. So
That's 10 times as many as the first day.
Yeah, right?
So, okay, the challenges of opening this, like you wanted to open a brick and mortar from the beginning. Was this always part of the plan?
It was, yeah. We knew we wanted to do that. It was just a timing game of trying to make sure that we did it when it made sense to. Like Arick said, we didn't come into this with a ton of cash on hand to just like get a building and start roasting and do everything in an order that involved a ton of upfront cost. So for us to do the first year and a half predominantly doing bag sales and pop-ups made the most sense for us. We built a lot of community and repeat customers and brand awareness. And then, executed on the build out plan. So I think for us that made the most sense. It might not be the order in which everyone wants to do things, but we always saw ourselves having a space. So we're excited to finally be in it.
One of the things I'm interested in when it comes to your brick and mortar is the challenge of creating a permanent expression of your coffee, whereas the mobile unit, I mean, you're still brewing coffee, but it's just the logistics of doing it. You get used to the rhythm of anyone who's done a farmer's market understands this versus a permanent location. Like now you have to make excuse me. Now, not only is it permanent, but you have more freedom to choose, which sounds great until you have to choose. And you're kind of going to second guess yourself about where something goes, where something doesn't go, what equipment do we need that we don't have currently. How did you overcome some of those initial decision moments that this opportunity presented to you?
Yeah, again, I think people underestimate the value of asking questions. I'm not recommending people do this, Chris, but when we saw you, I think the conversation lasted a full 30 seconds before I was like, hey, do you want to check out our floor plan?
You pulled out the floor plan right there, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that seriously though, not making it hard to ask for feedback. That conversation that we had was maybe 7 minutes. It didn't have to be an hour or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, probably 100 people saw that floor plan before we actually built it out, and we were always open to feedback and open to input. I fancy myself as decisive. I just make a decision, and if evidence presents itself as there's a reason to change that decision, then we pivot. But we kind of just was we have this 1,400 square foot canvas to play with. How do we want the flow to be? How do we want it to feel? And yeah, it kind of just evolved onto a piece of paper, and we took a lot of feedback, and then I don't know, we went with it. And now that it's here, I don't really know much of what we would change. Being in the space and being there, there's a few finishes where if we had more money, we probably would have got a different table or something like that. But all in all, I think we did a phenomenal job creating the space that is working very well for us.
So that's interesting that you said you fancy yourself as decisive, and yet I you've taken so many different people's opinions in on something where other people might say, we talked to one person, I think we know what we're doing. We're just gonna go with this, but you checked again and again and again with different people, and I'm sure what emerged was a pattern of advice that you followed. You kind of took the meta-analysis here and said, okay, well, everyone agrees kind of on these things, and it feels like a safe decision if that's what we're hearing. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think ultimately, one of the things I learned early in entrepreneurship is you do have to take the right advice from the right person at the right time. So I never went into any of those conversations like, oh my God, like whatever Chris says has to go. It was more of like, I want to hear how people react to it. I want to take that information in and then make the decision that's best for us. And I think there's also comfort in knowing that you can change your mind. Like you don't have to be stuck with a certain decision. You can decide that, oh, we want the espresso machine here, and maybe in a couple months you move it over here. Like I think there is some comfort in that as well. But yeah, I think leveraging other people's expertise and input is always the way to go.
Something I really love about what you said there, you said like, oh my God, Chris said this, so we have to listen to it. And it's like, oh sure, if I'm biased and I think my opinion is right, I'm going to give you my opinion, right? But at the same time, it would be terrible. That would be terrible if you operated that way. To say if like one person says it, I'm going to completely believe it. You said to make it your own, you really have to do the due diligence, and investigate and take seriously what somebody says, but then apply it and see if it fits for you. Because something could be true in one context, but in your context may not be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes too, like people are almost looking for permission, and I think that's kind of just a dangerous game to get into. Like you got to be able to balance both of those of like listening and being humble and taking other people's expertise, but like not deferring your decision making, like as a business owner or even like as a leader. Like even if you're just like the leader of a cafe or just a barista, like you have to really take ownership over what you are doing and what you are deciding. That's just my thought.
Okay, so now 9 days, you're open. The doors open and you're serving people. It must feel similar to your farmers markets, and that you're used to serving people when they walk into your space as a pop up. At what point during this process of being open now did it start to feel like, hey, this is quite different than the events that we're used to doing on Saturdays or whenever?
The very first day.
Right? Okay.
Like
The very
yeah,
first day.
15 minutes in.
Yeah, we did a really good job getting people to come to our grand opening.
Oh.
I'll just say that we had a line out the door at 6:50 before we opened, um, and we did what we could to prepare for that. But it turned into like an 11-hour rush. We made over 600 drinks that day.
Wow.
We sold over 50 bags of coffee. We think that there were about 1,000 people actually in and out of the building throughout the day. Many people just came and said hi and like just didn't get in line because it weaved out the door. And yeah, that was nothing like any of the pop-ups that we had ever been at. But it was really humbling and super cool. And obviously, on Monday, the next day, we did not have that same experience. And maybe it was a little bit more, like you would expect at a farmer's market or something throughout the rest of the week. But we really started with a bang. So it was hard to answer that really any differently, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was nuts. Like there's some pictures like on LinkedIn and a little bit like on Instagram, but I think we had a lot of people in the community that really wanted to come through and be a part of that grand opening experience. And yeah, like, and again, like I have a lot of friends in the industry that I kind of said, and like there was at a point because we only have a two group espresso machine,
Mm.
so there was a point where like drink wait time was
Oh.
45 minutes. And like my customer service brain is like, this is not acceptable. Like, what do we do? And I'm like pulling over like the CEO of this other coffee company, like, look at this setup. What should I be doing differently? He's like, Arick, there's 100 people in line. Chill out. He was like, there is nothing else you can do other than like keep
Yeah.
making drinks. So like literally, my friend did the math. Like
Yeah.
we did a drink a minute. So right, so you look at like, oh, it's a 45-minute wait, but the reality is, it's like every 30 seconds, a shot is coming off of this machine, a drip cup is getting poured. So it's just like,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah, and Chris, I think that was the coolest part is people would poke their head in and they would look at the line situation and they go, nah, and they'd get in line anyways because they were so excited. And that was
Oh,
like probably the coolest thing for me is like there are not many things that I would like pull up and see a line like that and go, oh yeah, I'll get in the back. Like there are just not many things that would call me to do that. So the fact that there were so many people in our community that had like followed the build out journey and knew that it was taking twice as long and that talked to us every Saturday at the markets and all those people showed up and that was just about the coolest thing that's ever happened.
and
So,
I don't mean this to sound disparaging, but they're not there for the coffee.
aw.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure the coffee's great, but
Yeah.
they're there for you in your journey and the brand, the story, the what it represents because they've gotten to know you over your social media in real life at the farmers markets and the pop-ups. And I think it's so great for people to hear this because a lot of people opening a coffee shop are trying to generate interest in what they're doing and getting out there to form relationships and operate with what might be considered a very micro version of what you do in your cafe. It can't be overstated how important that is. I mean, you're just a living testimony of what relationships do to build success into a business.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so, yeah, everyone, if you're you get out there, put yourself out there and start you don't have to have your coffee shop, quote unquote open even to do it. You can, pop up here and there and be consistent. I think that's a great lesson. And now you have a lot of people, obviously in the next few days after the big 11-hour rush that have come back and continue to patronize the store that you recognize from that day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of people. It was funny how many people came on Monday that were like, I tried to come yesterday, but it looked crazy. And I was like, oh, you're my people, because that was super overstimulating for me. And I big respect that you just left. No judgment there. So yeah, it was cool. We definitely had people that tried to come to the grand opening that came the next day. And I think there are many people that have come like almost daily. I don't know. I can count probably 10 people in my head that I've seen 5 times since we've opened. So, I think it's cool that we've already kind of found our way into some people's routines and that they like the space and they feel like they're supporting something cool. The neighborhood we're in too is not a neighborhood that has a ton of like new development or cafes or restaurants in the street that we're on. So there are a lot of people that kind of have come out and said like, finally, we have like a community, like a walkable coffee shop experience. And we're in the neighborhood actually that Arick grew up in, and where we had our first house like 5 years ago at this point. So it is just kind of cool to be there and get that feedback and watch people come back.
So now that you have this experience, of this crazy day, and then you've got people coming back. It's been 9 days, and so this is all so fresh. What are the things that are on your mind right now that you've seen? This wasn't just us freaking out in fight or flight during the first day. This is actually something that we need to. We're going to need to shift the way we do things a little bit based on now what we've seen our cafe needs and our how the workflow works in this business, because it's all concept up until the day you open the door. So what are some things that you're thinking, okay, this is next for us past this 10th day?
Yeah, I think operationally in the cafe, there's really 2 big questions that we're having, and one is like getting systems in place. Because when you're just buying oat milk and coffee every other week, it's pretty simple. When you have now like 15 vendors where you're getting like cups
Right.
and pastries and everything else, and like cold case drinks, like we realized that like we need to really have a system in place of like when we're ordering, when we're paying for stuff, which is kind of just something that was an oversight because we focused so much on like the coffee experience and all of that stuff. So like coffee is nailed down. All the peripherals still need a little bit of work. And then I think the second thing we're looking at is then like we did have this great grand opening, but how do we continue to bring those people back into the cafe? So we use Square a lot, and there's like a lot of great tools in there for like figuring out who your customers are, getting like email addresses and phone numbers. So we're gonna be like sending like some follow up texts and emails, and just trying to figure out like not necessarily how do we recreate the grand opening, but how do we ensure that we're capturing as much of that momentum and staying top of mind for people.
No, I think you nailed it. I really feel like I'm kind of in like data mode right now, Chris. Like we did so many projections around what to expect in terms of cafe traffic and people's buying habits and how much we were going to need of everything, and what hours of the day we were going to need more staff and less staff, and we've just sort of barely got enough data to start to know if we were right or if we need to make adjustments. So I think that we have a lot to learn, and we're paying really close attention right now. And I think we'll continue to pay close attention just so that we can really pivot and be nimble and modify if anything that we guessed turned out just not to be true. So that's kind of where my mind is at right now.
How is your team processing all of this? Because, this is your business, but you've got now a team working with you in this cafe. So there's people management as a result of having this brick and mortar. What's that like?
I think that it's going well. We tried really hard to prepare our team the best we could throughout this process. A lot of them were along for the ride of the build out plan, or the I don't know if I would call it a plan at this point. I feel like it just very quickly devolved into trying to get open as soon as possible. So they were along for some of that, and I don't know that was like a super calming experience for anybody, because it was a little bit hectic just getting the doors open. But we really tried our best to set people up for success, and to give them the tools that they need to do their job well and to have their own like good work-life balance. And I think everybody's been really committed to the brand and super excited to see that we're open and we've got all of this positive feedback and we had this huge turnout. So a lot of it's going well, but good, culture and employee relationships don't happen on accident. You have to be really intentional about getting feedback from your team and making sure everybody feels like the steps you're taking to put them in a good position are actually working. So we've really tried our best to have just really good communication, hopefully the last several weeks, especially as things really amped up.
Yeah, I think everyone on our team, like they killed it. I mean, Chris, like they were, we talk about grand opening day, like they were doing a drink a minute. Like this is a very smart, hardworking, like committed team. And like hard work is not one of our core values, but it is, I think, something that just kind of happens when you're doing work that you're passionate about. And like I think our team is really stepped up, and I think we try to take moments to like take breaks, and everyone gets like days off and all of that stuff too. So, but I think it has been a challenging time. It has been stressful, and we all have been, giving it 100% because we really want this thing to work. And I think it has been, I can't think of a better word than like heartwarming to just like see, the dedication that like Suzanne and Mackenzie and my friend Adam flew in from California to help us out during the grand opening, like to see like their commitment to like wanting this thing to be successful, has been amazing. I'm getting teary eyed over here.
I am really just so happy for you all to see you open and to just hear what heart is behind the business and how the community is embracing what you're doing. Really is, like you said, Arick, it's heartwarming. It's great. And so a huge congratulations to you guys. And thank you for being on the show to talk with us all this time about what's going on. I really wish you all so much success moving forward past day 10. It's going to be awesome. So where can we learn more about Last Mile, and we can visit you in person or online?
Yeah, if you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, definitely swing by the cafe. Our website is lastmile.cafe. And then we're also on Instagram and all the other social media as well. So come find us, send us a message. And seriously, like if anyone does have any questions or thinking about starting something, I will definitely make myself available. My email is eric@lastmile.cafe. I will respond as soon as I can.
All right. Well, thank you both again. This was a wonderful conversation, and I really do need to get up to Grand Rapids to visit you. But thank you for giving us your insights and experiences with this awesome coffee business.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And I mean, yeah, this has been fun. I wanted to chat a while ago, so it's been great. I appreciated the questions and yeah, excited to share the episode. And honestly, I hope some people get some value out of it.
Okay, everyone. Well, I hope that you really enjoyed that conversation, and I hope that you also took a couple of things away that really made you think. And whenever something makes you think, I believe you need to repeat it to yourself and really chew on it, meditate on it, go back into the episode and listen to them say it again. Take a note on it. One thing that I always worry about is that these podcasts, try to make it convenient for you to listen to, and you hear something that really resonates. It might be inconvenient to do so. Pause, make a note, do something. But there's something here in this conversation that I personally thought was a great takeaway for everyone, and that's the idea that networking and partnering with organizations in your community is a great way to make impact. We talk about community a lot, but often it's in the context of the coffee community. But your local community, there are people that are all trying to make a difference, often to the same end, right? And so if you take a page from their playbook and you could go as far as they have and determine a percentage that you want to donate to charity and involve your community with it. I'm excited for the scaling possibilities with that. But just take the first step and start having conversations with organizations around you and let your collective power make a collective difference. So all told, wonderful conversation with two wonderful people doing great work there in Grand Rapids. If you want to learn more information about Last Mile Cafe, all you need to do is go to their website, lastmile.cafe. And you can also follow them on Instagram, which is @lastmilecafe. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback from me about today's episode, feel free to reach out, chris@keystotheshop.com. That's also where you can reach out if you're interested in working one-on-one with me at Keys to the Shop Consulting. Go ahead and use that email, chris@keystotheshop.com. And with that, that is the end of our show today and the last Founder Friday of 2022. Don't forget to follow Keys to the Shop on Instagram @KeysToTheShop. Also subscribe to the show and share these episodes with a friend. If you love what we do, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And I hope that you have an awesome day. And of course, I hope that today's episode has truly given you keys to the shop.